I want to do a quick recap, or basically follow up on what we were talking about earlier this week when, we were talking about emotions and self-enhancement in regards to that viral content. Guys, I did a little bit of research and I found a study done by a few psychologists at the Wharton School of Business, okay? And in this study, right, they looked at articles that were contained in the New York Times. And guys, it was basically an in-depth study, okay? So they looked at 7,000 articles that were published in a 3-month period. And they measured emails and sharing rates based on the website's metrics, okay? And then they documented the findings. And also then, they replicated some of their own lab studies to find correlation with the information. Ready? So the study is quite in-depth, okay, because it did come from a couple of psychologists. Their names were Jonah Berger and Catherine Milkman, okay? But I do want to just summarize essentially what the findings were here for us, okay? So first, not a massive surprise, but positive content trended far better than negative content, which is kind of in line with what I was saying in the last lesson, okay? So creating a positive emotional response to something, according to their numbers, it does outweigh the negative emotional responses, okay? Also, the more emotional arousal that was gained, the higher the likelihood was to share, okay? So we were looking at that emotions continuum earlier in the week. So you want to shoot for the ends of the spectrum on those, or on that, okay? Content that evokes emotions in the middle, it didn't get quite as much sharing, okay? No filthy comments about arousal, please. Specifically, guys, content that was fostered, that kind of facilitated the emotions of surprise and amusement and awe, they were the ones that trended the best, okay? And we'd think of this as a mostly positive emotional response, okay? That was labeled. And in terms of the negative emotions, so anger and anxiety were the ones that had the most sharing responses as well, with sadness falling well below everything else. So if you are going to look for a negative or a negative emotional, use a negative emotional trigger to get shares, guys, avoid sadness, okay? And push the boundaries a little bit closer to anger and anxiety. Okay, and as we touched on earlier this week, with self-enhancement, okay, your social standing and reciprocity garnered higher levels of shareability. So this goes back again to being cool and fitting in and being a part of. Okay, and also, the notion of reciprocity, which indicates that people might share content in the hopes of getting something in return, right? Whether it's tangible or not, whether it's, it could be just be social currency, okay? And information that had practical applications like informative and educational articles, they also had quite high numbers of shares, okay? So this information, it really fits in quite well with what we've already discussed, okay? So I just wanted to put a lot of this into one place, especially because it was also the findings from a scientific study, right? And I found the summary of the information, after trying to look through the academic article on a site called Scientific American. So it comes from a pretty good source as well. So now, guys, one thing that I want to take a bit more of a look at, a bit of a closer look at with you guys from a practical standpoint is headlines for written content that you're creating. And, also just some information with regards to content that you're hosting on your website in general, okay? So headlines are a really, really important aspect because most people are going to gauge whether or not to continue reading something or click on something based on that headline, right? So, obviously there is a lot of power in video when it comes to something going viral, but, we're not all in a position to create videos, okay? And I do want to acknowledge that because it can seem quite limiting if you can't, If you are able to, then that's awesome, right? And I do definitely encourage anyone who feels as though they do have an aptitude for it to give it a try. Okay? But we do also need to look at some additional things that can help us to create some traction with our content online, with the other forms, okay? So the first thing that we'll have a little chat about now are headlines, okay? And we're going to talk about creating headlines for content that we're creating, okay? Like our blog posts, as an example, okay? So I came across another study. I did some studying this week, okay? That from Iris, I think her name is Iris Schur, and it analyzed 100 top blogs on the web, okay? And looked at their headlines to see what similarities there were in how they were naming their articles and their posts and all of that. And from that, we basically can whittle it down to 3 main tips when it comes to creating headlines. So the first one is to use numbers, okay? The next one is to think about teaching something in your posts and then creating headlines to match that. And the last one there is actually a certain word choice. So we'll look at each of these in a little bit more detail right now, okay? The first one we're going to have a look at here is the use of numbers. And what we're saying here is make lists, okay? You can't do this for every single piece of content that you create. Of course you can't, right? But when you can, you want to think about making your content into lists. So we're looking at things like 8 reasons to do something or 11 tips to improve something. People really like numbers. The studies show that these kind of articles, guys, as well as headlines that contain these kind of things, are likely to trend better. Think about BuzzFeed, okay? They're masters at it, okay? When doing this, okay, and when creating this type of content, you also want to use the actual digits in your headline. So don't spell the words, the numbers out as words, okay? Because, you know, when we're looking at the sharing metrics, they're not as effective. So use the number 10 as opposed to the word 10 as an example, okay? Guys, number placements, it was also a factor, okay? You want to put the number at the beginning of the title or in the headline. So you want the headline to say 5 ways to do something as opposed to how to do something in 5 ways, okay? Guys, the next thing is the informational type of content, okay, which does pretty well. And you need to think about certain things in your headlines if you're going to get some traction on your educational, your how-to, and your informative content. Okay, people love to learn, which means that they're also often searching the internet to learn new things, right? But you want to be specific in your headlines when telling that your content's going to be about how to do something. Okay, so you want your headline to say more than just how to, okay? You want it to say specifically what the article or the post is going to be about. And ideally, you also want to say how long it's going to take or how many steps are in the process. So creating things like your beginner's guides or how to do something in 5 minutes. Guys, the idea here is that you want to let the reader know exactly what to expect once they click on your article. You've got to be clear and concise, but also give enough information so that you're not being vague, okay, but not give it all away at the same time. Clarissa says BuzzFeed is like candy for my brain. So I could so relate to that. Okay, so word choice, guys, also has an impact on the likelihood that an article will be clicked on and or shared, okay? So there are certain words that are found to be quite common, or they were in this study, okay, amongst the articles and posts that would trend the best. And in a little bit, I'm going to show you some words, you know, as well as a formula to bring it all together. But right now, I just want to go through what the components are. Okay, so first, we already covered this, but again, you can use numbers, okay? The next thing that you can do is use interesting adjectives. You also want to use words that convey a rationale, okay? Especially if you're creating a list. There are also trigger words, which I'm going to show you in a moment as well. And then you're also going to want to make a promise as to what the viewer or the reader of that information is going to get, you know, by clicking on and reading your article. Byron says, clickbait, you'll never believe this. Yeah, have you guys, you hopefully know what clickbait is. It's basically, you know, the articles where it's, you'll never believe what happened next. A lot of videos are titled that way. That's considered clickbait. Okay, funny one. Okay, guys, so when looking over the word choice there, on the last screen, I did mention adjectives and rationale and triggers, right? And basically this is what I'm talking about. Okay, here's a list of potential adjectives that you can think about incorporating into your headlines, okay? These, not just these, but other ones like these, okay? So you've got like fun or free, 5 fun things you can do on your kids' summer holiday, you know? 5 free things to do. I don't know why 5 is the number today, but 5 free things to do in your city. You'll incredible. I don't know. You guys get the drift. So essential, absolute, essential. What are they called? Accessories for the summer. I don't know. Absolute or effortless. Okay. Then we've got words that'll convey the rationale, okay, that generate further interest for that reader, okay, and then you've got our trigger words, okay, so these are using your what, your where, your how, your when, or the trigger can also be a number, as we looked at with the use of numbers, okay. Thank you very much. Byron, you're on the ball. Effortless ways to clean your house this spring. I don't think cleaning is ever effortless, but that's because I really don't enjoy doing it. Okay, so like with your rationale words, it's reasons, ways, lessons, ideas, secrets, tricks. It's the active word in the sentence, okay? So ways, it's a great one. And triggers, what, why, how, when, where, or a number, okay? So what I want to do here is I want to bring it all together a little bit with a little bit more of a straightforward way of getting started with creating compelling headlines, okay, rather than it just being theoretical. So let's have a look. Okay, so we're going to look at a little formula for generating some headlines, okay? So here's the formula. So let me just get my pointer. Okay, so your number or your trigger word. So 5, you know, or how to... what to wear this summer. Adjective describes the noun. So 5 fun. Subject, trips, promise, you know, effortlessly sell your home in 1 month. 13 amazing ways to sell your home in 1 month. Does it make sense, guys? I don't know where my brain is, but you get you get what I'm saying. So what we're, you know, let's say you're going to write a post giving advice on how to sell their home quickly with these examples, okay? So, of course, at the core of everything, you need to have great content to back everything up, guys. Because the headlines can only take you so far. They will. It's kind of what I say with everything. You actually do really need to offer something of value in order to get real traction. Okay, so what we're looking at here is getting some attention on the valuable content that you're creating. So it's like the finishing touch. It's like the cherry on top that makes it look really appealing. It's like the filter on a really good picture. Okay, so looking at that example, okay, does that make sense to you guys? So here, so your how is your trigger word, how to. Effortlessly is the adjective. Sell your home or your home in sell your home in 1 month, your subject and your promise, okay? 13, amazing, okay, adjective, ways, trigger, to sell your home in 1 month, subject and promise, okay? All with me. So guys, the content here is key. You're not trying to trick your readers. You're not trying to deceive your readers. That is how we differ from, this is slightly, I mean, where I was saying clickbait, your headlines can be clickbaity. You can get away with it providing the content is good, okay? Really, I mean, it's clickbait has got a bad rap because it's terrible quality content, okay? It's just to get people to click and see ads. That's I would never ever suggest anybody going about things that way. However, having a catchy headline, which could be perceived as clickbaity, as long as your content's good, then you're sailing, okay? So you don't want as well, you've got to be accurate, okay? You don't want to have a reader be upset when they come to your post. So in terms of your headline and attracting people to your content, you do need to be creative, but be accurate as well. Alrighty. So Guys, I'm going to show you a little tool called BuzzSumo. Before I do, I'm just going to answer a couple of questions here. Richard is asking, can you go back to a previous post and revamp your headlines? Yes, you can. You absolutely can. I don't think that a piece of like written content, a blog or anything like that, I don't think that it's a static element, okay? I think they can always be revamped and republished and updated and bettered, and it's a work in progress. So I would definitely go back and change the headline and see what happens. See if you do get better traction on it. Janie says, makes sense, but goes against grammar and English lit. Yeah, no, I get exactly what you're saying. It's for some reason, I suppose English literature wasn't created to psychologically flick a switch. Priya says, I know, clickbait. Some people have no principles. So judgy of me, no? I mean, as long as the content's good, that's kind of what I go by. Okay. So, okay, guys. So BuzzSumo. Anybody heard of it? Okay, guys. So BuzzSumo is a paid tool, but you can use a 14-day trial, and it's really worthwhile having a look at. It's very cool. So I've initiated a trial here. You don't have to put any payment details or anything in, so it doesn't charge you or anything. But here, you can see what trending content there is. You can see what the top performing content is, okay? So as per whatever topic, okay? So let's have a look. Actually, what a good idea here is, so does anyone have a search term, like say a keyword that you would use for your business? And we can search that, or stuff that you've written about. Give me a topic that you've written about or that your business is about, and we can have a scroll through and see exactly what those headlines are like. You can also see, I mean, you can see so many things. That's what's trending now. There's your backlinks, your Facebook, and this is a great tool, guys. You can monitor stuff. You can find influencers. Yeah, you can see there's Shaw Academy, okay, where it's been mentioned, content research. So Nancy says, change reimagined train journeys. Let's have a look at that one. So it's a little bit clickbaity. The most dangerous and extreme railways in the world. Train journeys. Okay, so you can see it can give you a little bit of inspiration as well. Paul, you are on my page. I was playing with it a little bit before. There we go. How to make chocolate cake with avocado instead of, that just sounds terrible. I love avocado. I love chocolate. Don't think they go well together. Apparently you can make chocolate mousse with avocado. I'm not convinced. Healthy, 1 minute, that's your promise. Okay, low carb cinnamon roll mug cake. That sounds amazing, actually. So, brilliant, guys. So do you see kind of, it gives you a lot of different examples here. So, Kaylee, illustration. So, yeah, so you can see it for however long, the last 5 years. Okay, so, I mean, they are limited. There are different packages that you could use. 20 of the sweetest comics that the Simpsons artist draws after work. Illustration is a really, really great topic, I think. There's loads of fun here. So you can kind of, does this help, guys? Hopefully this kind of gives you a few ideas. Healthy recipes. There's another one. Healthy pumpkin spice latte. That is quite topical. Healthy mac and cheese. Why are they putting avocado in everything? It's a bit disconcerting. Richard says they must have done your course, Caitlin. I see headline formula in all of those headlines. It's interesting, hey? Train journeys we did. How about biltong? That's a great one. So it's a great way to look up content. Sorry. Some of them are, from forums and that sort of thing, but and news. Obviously, biltong, there's a lot of space for content there because there's not a lot on biltong. Past 5 years, hang on. No, we can't look at past 6 months. So look, there we go. So that's all news. All news. South African has a for real. Yeah. Okay, so there's not really, it's a lot of it's just news headlines. So your news headlines would be slightly different, guys. They won't have that driver to get people to read it as much. Okay. There you go. 5 steps to yummy homemade biltong using a dehydrator. So do you guys get what I'm saying? It's kind of cool. So go and have a play around. You've got 2 weeks free access to it. So go ahead and do that. Ane is saying, biltong. I actually found Irish-made biltong down in the shop here. It was very expensive for like 25 grams. It upset me a bit. Okay, so you can, on BuzzSumo, you can watch your brands and your clients and competitors. There's so much you can do on there. So highly suggest, the link for this is going to be in your slides, okay? See, Kaylee's asking, who is Dr. Biltong? It's quite a catchy title, isn't it? Okay, cool, guys. So the next thing that I want to talk about today is share buttons on our web pages, okay? And specifically on the pages that we're posting our content on. So as an example, putting share buttons on each of our blog posts. Okay, share buttons are the ones that you'll see on a web page that allow you to easily share the content that you see to social platforms. So does everybody know what I'm talking about when I say share buttons? I'll give you a bit of a live example. So let me just find, these guys do it brilliantly. So let's have a look. Share buttons. They're right up at the top here. Okay, you can see how many people have shared to Facebook, shared to Twitter. You can get floating share buttons as well. Okay, so here for this image, it's obviously share worthy. A lot of them, here you go. If you highlight text, it's a new thing, a relatively new thing. If you can share the quotes, usually it gives you shareability on Twitter as well. But you can see these quotes, they've already kind of pre-created. So it's cool, right? There's also on Sprout Social, they've got a different way of doing it. Okay. Here we go. So you can see them here down the right-hand side. Okay. Well, I can't really highlight that, but yeah, you can see them here. I think they don't have the highlighting element, but yeah, it kind of varies. Okay, so you can share, and they scroll down with you, which it's an important one. Sometimes it just depends on what your approach is. Okay, so excellent. We're all on the same page here. Alrighty, so guys, I just want to ask you, for those of you who do have a website for your business or for your brand at the moment, are you using social sharing buttons? And which ones are you using? Are you using the highlighting things? Are you using the floating share buttons that float down with you? Richard says yes, but does WordPress allow you to use one? There are a multitude of plugins that you can use that will allow you. You basically just need to get specific plugins for your WordPress account that will allow you to do that. Okay. On personal blogs or company blogs, is it always advisable to have share buttons? Priya says, I don't see why you would not want to have them. Okay, so what do you guys think of them? For those of you who are already using them, what do you think of them? Do you enjoy them? Do you find them useful? Priya says, has one for a plugin on WordPress. WordPress does, not as of yet. Yes, buttons, Terry says. Kaylee doesn't. Daylene, yes. Awesome. Ane says, I can hear your background noise. Yeah, there are a couple of very excitable people outside. They're on their way home shortly, I'd assume. Mainly Facebook. Richard says, the latest version of WordPress is amazing, by the way. It's free and allows many templates. Wix does allow for share buttons, Kaylee. Yes, it does. Okay, cool. So the sharing buttons, they're great. There's a variety of you guys saying yes and what you use. It makes things really, really easy to reshare. So there are benefits of adding social sharing buttons to your website. Obviously there are. Guys, especially if you're looking to spread the message of your brand, okay? Adding your social sharing buttons to your post is only going to help you. It's going to make life easier. Remember I was saying that our online users are lazy? If lazy to the point of if they can't do it in 2 or 3 clicks, they don't do it. Okay, so really, really beneficial to have these buttons nowadays. Okay, firstly, it'll increase the exposure of your brand. Okay, the easier it is for someone to share your content, the absolute better it could be for you, right? So if someone likes your content and then they share it on social media, then you know you're increasing the likelihood that other people are going to see it as well. Guys, adding share and follow buttons also enhances the user experience. So you want to make sure that any interaction your potential or your existing customers are going to have with your brand is as smooth and as easy as possible. I mean, guys, as I said, they're lazy, but it also ties into everything that we've looked at from our link structure and our site navigation, but it also plays a role in how easy it is for people to share your content. Okay, if they find a particular blog post interesting, don't make them have to go out of their way to share it. Put a button right on the post, or even as we saw on Mashable, on certain quotes, okay, so that it can be really easy for them to share on their channels, on their platforms. And guys, over time, it can also increase the coveted backlinks that we've been talking about, okay? The more people who share your content and the more people that see your content, as long as it's a value, okay? That is the baseline. It's got to be a value. The more that all of that happens, the more natural links you're going to develop over time as well. And all of these things, you know, from your increased exposure to getting more links, all of that good stuff is ultimately going to increase your web traffic, okay? And that's one of our prime goals, is we want to direct more people to our websites, you know, to our content hubs, so that we can get the most opportunity possible, firstly, to go viral, for our content to go viral, and secondly, to engage with our audience and ultimately get them to perform our desired actions or outcomes, right? So to make a purchase, as an example. So for those of you who are already using the buttons, or, you know, if you're not and you're going to start using them, I also want to talk to you briefly about button placement. Okay, there are a lot of different options, as you saw from the 2 examples I showed you there. You know, and you can see it on the image here as well. There are a variety of different places you can put those buttons. And Mashable have changed a little bit, but it's still there. Basically, the choice of where to put them is largely up to you, okay? And it's going to be based on your web design and your site layout. Guys, we're at the moment, for most of you, where are your buttons? Where are you going to be implementing them? Where do you put the buttons on your site? Just out of interest. Richard, that is a very, very good point. Says, I would think that if you want anything to go viral, you most definitely want to have share buttons anywhere and everywhere. Now, you don't want to overdo it. You don't want to bombard people with it. It's the same as bombarding people with advertising, okay? It's kind of like, okay, we get the point. You want us to share it. But Nancy says she would put it within the running copy or of, you know, the copy text or content. Byron's going to want to put them on the sides. Guys, try not to obscure your content as well. Marcos says, in my site, it is the left-hand side. Floating, left, Marcos says. Priya, mine's on the top just under the heading at the bottom at the end. At the bottom of the page, Carol. Very good points. And also, guys, your analytics are going to dictate a lot of this as well. So, say you see people only scroll so far down the page. Then you're going to want to put the sharing buttons a little higher up. Okay, so Tracy says put the sharing buttons below the article title for easier share. Exactly, that's awesome. Lee says we use HubSpot and then have to share the blog, but not the highlighted text or images. Or then they have to share the blog, sorry. Monique, you're very welcome, no worries. Okay, so there's a whole bunch all over the place. Okay, guys, so let's just shift along. Again, okay, there's not necessarily a right or a wrong answer with this. However, there is something that I do want to show you, and it's in line with your analytics, okay? It relates to both your position of your buttons, because that's what we're talking about at the moment, right? But it also relates to your web design in general. And what I want to look at is something called the F-shape pattern, okay, which is a premise that applies to a lot of different things from, you know, coming from, I mean, web design to creating graphics to search even, but it applies really nicely to what we're talking about here as well. Has anybody heard of this before? The F pattern. I know some of you might have known it from the Digital Marketing Foundation course. Okay? This is kind of what it looks like. Okay, so here it is a little bit bigger, so it's easier to see what I'm talking about. So guys, this is information from an eye tracking study. That was actually, it was based on 232, I think, users who, they were looking at thousands of web pages, okay, and they tracked where on the screen their eyes were going. And that's kind of where the F-shaped notion comes from. You know, sometimes it turns into a bit of an E shape, but the principle's the same, okay? So let's have a look at this. So it's from a user experience research piece by the Nielsen Norman Group, okay? So the heat maps that you can see there on the left-hand side, those ones, they show in red the spaces that were looked at for the longest period of time, okay? And in terms of the order, the first glance or scan is generally a horizontal scan, okay, from left to right at the top of the content. So it makes up the top horizontal bar of the F shape. Okay, the next scan is then again a horizontal scan, okay, from left to right, but a bit further down the page. And then lastly, the third scan is a vertical scan from top to bottom down the left-hand side of the screen. Okay, so again, the choice of where to put certain things on your screen, like your sharing buttons, it's entirely up to you. However, if you are just getting started with this kind of thing, it wouldn't be a bad place to go, okay? Like we were saying, the floating stuff down the left-hand side. Guys, the eyes will generally dart to the left-hand side of the screen for each scan anyway. So consider placing things of importance on that left-hand side of the page as a starting point, and then go from there, okay? How cool is that graphic? In addition, guys, to the implications of this from a standpoint of where to put the buttons or, you know, other things like your ads in certain locations, it's also got implications for the impact of what content goes where within your actual articles and posts. Okay, so first, understand that people will scan before they read. Okay, exhaustive reading is pretty rare unless the viewers got enough interest in the content that they're reading. They're generally going to scan through your post before investing too much time in it. Okay, so what that means is that you have to devote some extra attention to certain aspects of your written content. Okay, so your headlines, your titles, your descriptions, they'll often fit into this F-shaped pattern. All right, so you need to make sure that you're nailing those down with some really attention-grabbing word choice and written content. Okay, you also want to make sure that your first two paragraphs are pretty solid. Okay, following that kind of follows along the F pattern as well. So the first two paragraphs need to state the most important information about your content. Don't waste it. Don't waste that space, okay? The first paragraph is obviously going to get more attention than whatever's in the second paragraph in most cases, and then the third continuously. Do you know what I mean? So because also the left-hand side of the screen or the left-hand side of the text is what gets the most attention, you actually would also want to make sure that you're making the first words of each paragraph really count. I know that sounds quite strange, but think about it, okay? Use informative words at the beginning of your paragraphs that are going to grab your users or your readers' attention, okay? Does that all make sense, guys? Is everybody following me? Janie says, first horizontal scan is due to newspaper writing. The first column is generally a summary of the article. Very good point. Due to Western reading schedules, or structures, sorry, I guess, left to right. Byron, exactly. So, I mean, if you're thinking Eastern, where the writing is right to left, I mean, obviously the shape is going to change. It's going to be different, okay? So, Letitia says, yes. Excellent. Okay. Brilliant. Nancy says that's why infographics work well, fast digesting of info. Absolutely. Okay, cool. So let's bop along. Guys, so to cap us off tonight, I want to take a look at a couple of video examples. Okay, so the first one's a bit of a case study, and I actually used this, or we used it rather, in our viral marketing course, because it's actually probably the single best example that I can think of as to how a video that goes viral can impact a business. Okay, and then earlier this week we spoke about looking at a video that was maybe a little bit out of the mainstream. So for a brand or a company where we're not talking about a big brand, but rather, you know, a local business, and I might add a local business that's not something that you would think would be creating content that goes viral, but I'll get into that in a bit. Okay, great. So here's our first one. Okay, we're gonna have a look at a quick case study. It's the Dollar Shave Club. Has anybody heard of them or watched their YouTube video? Anybody? We're running a little bit slow tonight, I think. Okay, so Monique says no, never. Okay, cool. So I think let's watch the video first really quickly, and then we'll talk about them afterwards and see, you know, where we got to after the video release. Just worthwhile knowing, guys, that they use a little bit of language, okay? So just bear in mind, if it is something that you're not keen on, then I'm Mike. Pause a little bit, okay? Come back to us shortly. Alrighty, give me 2 seconds.
Hi, I'm Mike, founder of DollarShaveClub.com. What is DollarShaveClub.com? Well, for $1 a month, we send high-quality razors right to your door. Yeah, $1. Are the blades any good? No. Our blades are f***ing great. Each razor has stainless steel blades, an aloe vera lubricating strip, and a pivot head. It's so gentle a toddler could use it. And do you like spending $20 a month on brand name razors? 19 go to Roger Federer. I'm good at tennis.
And do you think your razor needs a vibrating handle, a flashlight, a back scratcher, and 10 blades? Your handsome-ass grandfather had 1 blade and polio. Looking good, Pop-Up! Stop paying for shave tech you don't need. And stop forgetting to buy your blades every month. Alejandro and I are going to ship them right to you. We're not just selling razors, we're also making new jobs. Alejandro, what were you doing last month?
Not working.
What are you doing now?
Working.
I'm no Vanderbilt, but this train makes hay. So stop forgetting to buy your blades every month and start deciding where you're going to stack all those dollar bills I'm saving you. We are DollarShaveClub.com, and the party is on.
I know karate, I know jiu-jitsu, I drive like a gangster when I'm coming to see you, see you.
Hi.
Oops, there we go. So what do you guys think? It's kind of cool, hey? Okay, so they started with a really good idea for their product, or with their product rather. But again, guys, they were looking for an effective way to market it, and they created this video. So I actually am going to add as well that they've got a really entertaining blog on their site. So do go and have a look. But guys, okay, so now they launched in April 2012, okay, and they got off to a fairly slow start with the product. A little less than a year later, they launched the video, all right? They then got 12,000 orders in 2 days after they launched that video, okay? And they experienced massive growth from there, really rapid growth from there. The video, I mean, it's got over 24 million YouTube views at this stage. And it's, I mean, it's a razor company, okay? So it's something where you're just taking a product that's really, it's just a necessity for people, okay? Granted, they offer it at a really good price and they've got a good business model, but for a company that started out wanting to sell razors, having that many YouTube views it's a heck of an accomplishment. And guys, in July 2016 it was. There we go. Dollar Shave Club was purchased by Unilever. Okay, so now does anyone have any idea of how much the company was sold for? Any idea whatsoever? Anybody? Okay, guys, so it's not fully disclosed. The price is estimated at $1 billion. Okay, so that's insane. It's massive. I can tell you with a large amount of certainty, as well as, that the content they created and the audience that they gained with the video and their marketing strategy played a huge part in getting that valuation. So it's a really impressive example of creating content that goes viral and seriously increases the value of the brand and the product, okay? Awesome. Okay, so next video here is going to be for a brand that's a little bit different. It's from a local taxidermy company in California. Okay, so I'm just going to play this one as well, and we can see what we think about it here. So if anybody has spent any time on Reddit, they'll know exactly what this is once they watch it. But give me 2 seconds to just fiddle around and get this to work, and then we'll watch. There we go.
You probably thought this deer was alive, and this coyote was alive, and this pheasant was alive. Nope, they're not. They're dead. They've been taxidermized by Chuck Testa. Ojai Valley Taxidermy. I specialize in the most lifelike dead animals anywhere, period.
Look at that antelope driving a car.
No, it's just Chuck Testa.
Oh no, there's a bear in my bed.
Nope, Chuck Testa.
Hold on a second. There's a leopard feeding on an impala out on my deck.
Nope, it's just Chuck Testa with another realistic mount. Shipped to me from anywhere. Call Chuck Testa for the most lifelike dead animals around, period.
Did that rhino just order a drink?
Nope.
Chuck Testa does not taxidermize pets.
Okay, so there we go. What do you guys think? Nancy says totally strange and disturbing video. Chuck's not very lifelike though, Andrew says. Murphy asks, how do you research these videos? They are with far too much time.